Gary Neville being helped to his feet. The time difference, incidentally, here 7 hours beyond British summer time. Took off at around 8:45 Beijing time. So a corner to China. And it's Alan Shearer on duty.
Particularly poor cross, and at a time when they really needed a good cross because England were a man short. Gary Neville had to go off until he gets permission from the referee, which I think he's just got now, just coming back on.
McManaman. Barmby moving ahead to McManaman. No foul. The referee had a good look. Barmby had a good look at the referee too. Brought out by Ma Mingyu.
Martin, over the last few months we've seen a change in tactics. England have gone from the 4-4-2 to the 3 at the back, and I think that when you come up against a team like this who change their tactics on the day of the match, you prepare differently. But I think the advantage is that you've got the players, and you can also adapt to various different systems. I think that's vitally important.
Well, we've spoken often about how hard it has been to put a perspective on what England have done in the last couple of years through the diet of so-called friendly internationals, but I think one thing for sure we can say that under Terry Venables there has been a great improvement in the aspect you just mentioned, and it should serve him well in naming his squad next week, because there are players who can double up when it comes to maybe freeing a space or two for an extra forward.
Yes, we certainly have a few utility players, and I think the most important player in this team at the moment is Gareth Southgate, because without him being able to adapt in a couple of positions, we couldn't possibly have changed to a 4-4-2.
Gascoigne almost ran through for Barmby. Solid play by Southgate. Gascoigne, of course, missed the Hungary game, involved in claiming a Scottish Cup winners' medal. Very confident on the ball. Darren Anderton had made tracks across the edge of the penalty area to try and make himself available for something slid into his feet.
Yeah, I should think that all the players should feel quite confident to keep possession. I don't think it's one of the strong points, the Chinese tackling. They're quite prepared to let us have possession of the ball. It's up to us to make good use of it.
Been a professional league in China since 1994, so all these players are full-timers, and indeed very busy professionals at the moment. Their league season began in April. Redknapp. Now Gascoigne. Gary Neville not seemingly affected too much from that clash of heads. Adams. See as the ball is rolled about that it's not the smoothest piece of grass that you've ever seen. Good advantage played by the Italian referee. Howe, the player who crossed so well a couple of minutes ago to give England their one real problem to date. Manaman. From long range. He is a member of the Chinese army, although I don't think he does too much soldiering. He plays for the army club, and they actually refused a request from the Uruguayan club Peñarol to sign Howe and take him from the Far East to South American football. But the authorities here said no, he can't go. Gary Neville progressing down the England right. McManaman. Here's Gascoigne. McManaman again. England trying to play their way through. They do defend quite narrowly. So England moving into a congested area through the centre. Shearer recognising the need for some width. Supplied by Gary Neville. Now can he supply a cross? Not really given the chance to do so. Adams. Shearer wants it played long. England content at the moment to pass it through midfield. But not on that occasion with any great accuracy. Lee Hong-jun, the left back, couldn't tidy it up very well. He's been brought in for this game. It's a problem position for China. Whether England can exploit that remains to be seen. Trevor, just one issue that you were a witness to. I'm sure many of our viewers read in their papers about the trip to the Great Wall that England's players went on yesterday. You were part of that trip. Comment on that?
Well, it was a trip that went sadly wrong, because when we arrived there, we got the tickets to go up on the cable car, set off walking, took the wrong route, didn't find the cable car, so I think it was something like an hour we were walking in temperatures, well, it must have been approaching 90 degrees, and some of the players elected to go back.
Alan Shearer was one of those who felt the pace on one of the great tourist attractions of the entire globe, really. Certainly worth making the journey there, but as Trevor said, it did go wrong, and England's players were sent to bed early last night to try and recover from it.
Yeah, undoubtedly it was a tiresome trip, and I'm just hoping I don't see any signs of that in this match tonight. Looking at the opposition, I have to say that England are far superior at this moment. Goals win games. We haven't scored yet, but I'm very confident about the start we've made. We look to be at a different level than what the Chinese team do.
And they'll have a corner. Almost 15 minutes gone in the Workers' Stadium in Beijing. Gareth Southgate came up again.
Yeah, it was interesting actually. It was Southgate who went forward from the corner. A corner actually where they didn't bother to bring anybody out. We were allowed to get, well, normally 2-on-1. There was nobody there for the two. Decent cross came over. But it was Tony Adams who stayed back, which is rather unusual.
Well, just maybe a case of him being concerned about his match fitness. Of course, apart from the Paul Merson testimonial, he's not had any action since January. This is Lee Bing, one of the two central midfield players. Howe wanting more time than England were prepared to give him, but he was fouled in the process. Shearer waiting on the right-hand side. Phil Neville has tracked across, but won't be needed, except perhaps to take the throw.
I think when you come away as far as this from England, two things you're always looking for, Martin, is first of all a decent playing surface. I've already mentioned that we've got that. And secondly is you want a good referee. And I think in this fella here, undoubtedly one of the best at present in world football. He was on our flight over, had a good chat with him, watched him many times refereeing in the Italian Serie A. And he's certainly very, very respected. And he shouldn't have a problem refereeing this game.
Southgate's pace being questioned there by Zhao Fong. Referee Colina does speak some English, which will help his communication, of course, with Terry Venables' team. Way with the cross. He never looks the biggest, Gary Neville, but he doesn't miss out on too many important headers, and he was in the right place then. Gascoigne to McManaman. Barmby has gone on through the centre. Shearer, of course, is there. And Anderton has vacated the wide right spot, and there's space there for Gary Neville to move into. Barmby calling for a quick cross. He pulled away to make some space. Barmby to McManaman. And now Barmby. Shearer trying to make it his. Anderton, very much England's goal-getter in form. It's Barmby's shot. And it was always slicing away.
Well, eventually the ball fell to Barmby, but I thought just prior to that, possibly Anderton could have been brought down. One or two appeals for a penalty. We don't quite see it there. Not the best of shots in Barmby.
I think it's fair to say that Nick Barmby didn't have the best second half of the season for Middlesbrough, but he was at a club where they were racked with injuries. Brian Robson telling me that earlier today that Nick agreed to help him out when he wasn't fully fit, because he was so short of senior players, so that undoubtedly affected his productivity. He hasn't actually scored, or didn't score for Middlesbrough since January.
Yeah, I think we're about, 1 week away from hearing the final squad that Terry Venables is going to select. And I would think, looking at this team here, the two players who are under most pressure to get a place are probably Nick Barmby and possibly Jamie Redknapp.
This is Ma Mingyu. Howe and Gao in the centre, and Li Bing as well. Calm play from Gascoigne, a bit too much on the pass despite the quick turn from Barmby. Anderton. England arrived in the early hours of Tuesday morning, local time. They had some sleep straight away, then afternoon training to help get over the jet lag. More work yesterday, and then that much discussed trip to the Great Wall.
That was the most difficult training session up the wall.
I believe it. I've seen the pictures and you were there.
I finished it off though. Some of the players, quite rightly so, elected to come halfway through, return to base. But a few of us continued it. But it was very, very interesting, Martin. Great experience.
Barmby. Anderson. McManaman. Gary Neville. Now Redknapp. England have 3 in China's penalty area. And it's too high for Shearer. Of course, even the experience of playing away from Wembley is relatively new to many of these England players. It's just the unfortunate affair in Dublin, and a match that didn't set the pulses racing in Oslo, that have been played outside England since Terry Venables took over. And one odd statistic is that England haven't won 2 internationals in a row for 2 years, since the first 2 played under Terry Venables' regime against Denmark and Greece. Of course, if they win tonight after Hungary, it'll be just an uplifting in terms of the results, with morale so important as the countdown gets ever closer to the start of Euro 96.
And also goals are vitally important too, Martin, because they've been rather scarce over the last 2.5 years for England. I think we all got a boost from the result against Hungary. There's no reason why we can't score goals tonight and against Hong Kong on Sunday.
Well, the free kick given against Redknapp.
1 or 2 complaints from a lot of the Chinese supporters here, but I couldn't see too much wrong with that. The referee gave a free kick. I don't know if it warranted a free kick.
England have named 7 substitutes tonight, any 5 of which can be used. And all 7 getting up to do some stretches. The rare pleasure not to have to get any cold out of the muscles after the particular English winter that we've all suffered through.
And the summer, not just the winter.
England backpedaling. Howe again with the shot, which was deflected, but Flowers able to swoop on it. Just a note on the goalkeepers, 3 have to be named in the squad of 22, so Tim Flowers is perhaps playing for his berth. Is he the official number 2 to David Seaman, or has Ian Walker made up the ground? Only Terry Venables could answer that. And of course Walker got his first taste of international action at Wembley a few minutes at the end of the Hungary game. Coming towards the halfway mark in the first half, 0-0 in Beijing. Gascoigne. It's a free kick against Li Bing. And England anxious to get hold of the ball and take it quickly. Anderton, the player showing the urgency then. A word with Gascoigne.
And this time Adams has gone forward, stayed back for the corner, but I would think he'd be involved in this. Just slightly too far out for a direct shot at goal.
Gascoigne still doing the plotting. Redknapp coming in to have a say. Gascoigne trying to find someone to his left unsuccessfully.
Well, if the ball had been better, Adams had taken up a great position. He pulled off the back of his marker, found himself in some 6 or 7 yards of space. But unfortunately, Gascoigne couldn't get any height from the free kick.
Shares ball forward. Every back pass has got to be watched like a hawk by Tim Flowers. Just the natural roll of the ball. Always likely to take a bobble in the goal areas, which are the worst part of the pitch. This was the end where David Seaman did so much damage to himself a year ago. Lee with the header. With Gascoigne breaking forward, winning the ball well for England. It's a mistake by Jiang. Barmby! It's a corner.
Great play from Gascoigne, just played a little ball through for Barmby. I think Barmby thought he had a player up his backside, but he had more room than he actually realised. But it's a good shot, gets it on target. Keeper saves well at the near post.
Adams has come up. A signal from Anderton. Southgate there as well. Adams has gone to the near post. And it was a deeper one towards Alan Shearer. You mentioned Trevor Gascoigne not wanting to go for goal, but the goalkeeper Oh Chu-Liang is one of these shorter Chinese players. They've actually got a real six-footer as their backup man, who very much looks the part but can't get in the team.
Yes, I think it would have been 5 yards closer. He would definitely have had a shot and tested the keeper.
Howe. He's looked good in possession. This is Lee Hongju. Howe again. They've lost it several times, China, in midfield, particularly to Gascoigne, who's picked out here by Barmby. Shearer trying to lend support inside Gascoigne. Redknapp is behind him. Anderton's cross. Barmby. McManaman trying to get it down. Ricochet's there. Could have gone either way. And trying to clear their lines.
Yeah, that was good play from England. Good cross to Barmby, who took up a good position. Little knockback from McManaman. Needed to be hit on the volley.
Gascoigne. It's a very almost arrogant ball, really. Nearly came off. Gascoigne in possession again, and clearly not disheartened by the pitch here in Beijing, which they say is the best in China. Maybe tells you a lot about the others. Neville had to be careful then, and the referee has given a free kick against England's 19-year-old defender. He's given it outside the area as Howe certainly toppled inside the area, well inside. First point of contact.
Yeah, it was definitely outside, but he falls inside. He's been the big threat, hasn't he, to England, this lad, Howe. Already had a couple of shots, good cross on the right-hand side. He's the attacking inspiration to the China team.
And England have a problem here.
And don't be surprised if he takes the free kick.
Tim Flowers, who in his last international conceded a goal to Juninho at Wembley. Looks like it will be Gao Fong, although Fan Ji is there as well. England have put the player on the line. It's Fan. Well, it kept on rising. Hit with great power. Now he is a striker with his club, Fan Ji, but plays for the national team as a centre-back.
Well, he's certainly got enough power on it. Not quite the accuracy. I think if he'd been on target, as you can see there, Tim Flowers in exactly the right position, would have saved it.
Pushed by Shea.
It was interesting there, you know, we put Gary Neville back onto the goal line, thinking they were going to put a little free kick over the top of the wall, and they didn't react at all. Normally when that happens, the opposition sending it forward, but China didn't do anything at all.
Gary Neville letting it run for Gascoigne. England at times have won the ball in China's territory. Another dart forward from midfield from Gascoigne. Redknapp. Terry Venables is telling me today that he believes that this game is as difficult, taking all factors into consideration, as anything England will face throughout the summer. Offside. Flag goes up. Karen Anderson was the player in possession. We're not quite at the best angle to judge whether he was the player who was too far forward. He was certainly closest to the linesman.
And if England are going to play like opposition like this in every game in the European Championships, I would predict now they'll win the European Championships.
I think there might have been just a little bit of side issue to that statement. But what England have had to do is deal with a very passionate crowd, and they've got Barmby in against the inside of the post. Barmby into the back of the net, and England have taken the lead. And Nick Barmby scores in Beijing his first international goal.
Well, it was only a matter of time, wasn't it? We've been so superior. Good ball from Anderson. He's unlucky actually, Barmby, with his first strike. Hits it across the keeper, but he's so alert to the rebound. This time with his left foot puts it into the unguarded net.
Well, we talked about this being an important night for certain players, and Barmby was on that particular list. That's a great moment for him.
Well, he deserves the goal because that's his third attempt at goal. His first one wasn't on target. The second one was saved by Ho at the near post. This time he was unfortunate. He hits the post, but the rebound comes back to him and he makes no mistake.
And you can almost feel the silence. The crowd that were doing their bit were very much a part of the occasion here. Have been silenced by England and by Nick Barmby.
Well, I'm surprised, Martin, it's taken so long. You know, as internationals come, this is a very comfortable game, this, against the Chinese team, who are obviously much weaker than us. We're superior in every department.
McManaman, Redknapp. Gary Neville confident to move forward down England's right again. Another touch for Barmby. Not quite such an accurate one then. Shea. Plenty of Chinese players forward. There was a heavy fall. Balls roll loose. The China player involved was Hao, who was entitled to be involved as well. On the bounce of the ball, and Flowers came over the top of him as he claimed it, and then lost it as he hit the ground.
Yes, and he'll feel that because the pitch is very, very firm. There's a slight sprinkling of water before the game, but I'm sure it's made no effect on the pitch. It's slightly shaken up, but I'm sure he'll be okay. But once again, it was that man Howe, wasn't it? He's been the big threat, and the only threat to England.
I bet David Seaman, who's sitting on the sidelines, is saying it's not a great place to be a goalkeeper here.
No, but that sort of incident can happen at Wembley. It doesn't have to be Beijing.
Foul shaken up, but not for long.
I'm amazed at the amount of room that Paul Gascoigne's got in midfield. There's nobody within 20 yards of him. He's really enjoying himself. It's virtually been a stroll for him, hasn't it?
Yes, and no thought of Terry Venables resting him after his activity in Scotland on Saturday. Remember, 9 changes from the England team that began the match. Well, of course, Paul Mark Wright didn't last too long against Hungary. China are going to make a substitution. Xiang is going to be replaced. But before they can get down to that, they're trying to get another attack going.
I would think this change is tactical, wouldn't you, Martin? Doesn't appear to be an injury there to the number 3.
Comes Dao Zhongchun. Well, England very superior in the department where Xiang was expected to have a significant influence as a ball winner.
I don't think there's a ball winner in the team. They're all nice and neat and tidy, got decent control. But I don't think they relish the art of tackling.
Wei Chun with the throw. And again. England go on from here, of course, to play in Hong Kong. It's not a full international, but it's a very important game for the England players. The Hong Kong Golden Select 11. And why don't you set your alarm clocks and make sure you're up to have a spot of breakfast with us. We're on at 8:30 on Sunday morning on Sky Sports. England's last public outing before Euro 96. An offside here. Referee looking in the opposite direction, had to take a second or two to spin round to see the linesman. Ten minutes left in the first half. England lead in Beijing with a goal from Nick Barmby. Phil Neville. McManaman reflecting the buoyant mood that England are in. Redknapp. Phil Neville again. Barmby just pulling away towards the far side of the penalty area. Checking now, having noted that Shearer was already there and showed no sign of moving himself. But the supply didn't come. He's done well again. Well, Shea was wide on the right-hand side, but Li Bing was rather laborious in setting himself for a pass. And by the time he did release the ball, it wasn't on.
Yeah, England got themselves in trouble there because they're trying to over-elaborate in midfield. And that, I have to say, the only problem really, Martin, in midfield is that if we do overdo it, we are reasonably quick on the counter-attack, led by Howe, who is the only threat to us in the attacking aspect. So we just have to be careful not to throw too many men forward.
There are trophies to be presented for winners and losers tonight. The Cup is known as the Sino-British Soccer Cup. Not perhaps quite the right naming, but it's a trophy and a very neat one as well, as you'd expect from these parts. They know one or two things about vases. Way with a long ball. He's quite prepared to hit those as well. Point noted by Terry Venables and Chief Scout Ted Buxton.
That's the first time they got a midfield player forward. It was Lee Bing who made the forward run.
He's the one who likes to make those runs. But they haven't had enough of the ball to see him bomb on as often as he would like.
No, Gao's been very disappointing up front. Howe has been the only threat.
Well, at the moment, the Chinese team getting a bit of the bird from their own fans. It seems somewhat unfair in terms of international experience. China, the weaker of the two nations, by some distance, but not when Gascoigne gives the ball away like that. Case of overconfidence. Gao Fong, though, is rather typical of his work in the opening 38 minutes. The touch hasn't been quite there.
That was really careless once again from Paul Gascoigne, because he had so many options. The man in possession, Gary Neville, was free. They played it to Southgate, Adams, 3 or 4 choices. And I think that's indicative of where the game's gone. It's been so easy for him in midfield, and I think sloppiness does tend to creep in when you're not really put under any pressure at all.
Shearer. It's the longer ball again. Gao Fong with a chance to use his pace. Again, it hasn't led to worry of any significant nature for England at the back, but sometimes happens when a team is under the collar and, well, I think for whatever reason we'll get it out of our own half. And it's turned into a couple of chases for Gao Fong.
Yeah, a couple of chases where he showed his pace, but he was unable to keep the ball in play. On both occasions he's overrun it.
Back to the more considered England build-up. A bit of backing in, perhaps, by Shearer, the South Korean linesman, indicating to the Italian referee.
Well, that's a South Korean decision, that, because I think the Italian referee wouldn't certainly have given a free kick. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. He was just shielding the ball, as Alan Shearer does, and doing it well.
It's once more good play by Howe. Here he is again. China have got a lot in the centre. Howe's cross, and it was nearly turned in at the near post by Ma Mingyu, who came across, and well, he's the one player that at the moment you'd put in the opposing squad. He's done so well.
Yeah, I've got my eye on him, Martin. I spotted him early doors. The initial cross, similar one here, first one to the back post, this time to the byline again, tried the near post. Not a bad player at all.
I would give you one piece of advice: do not let your intentions be known on national television. Keep it quiet, as you did with Steve Bruce, until the deal is done. And as I said earlier, the Uruguayan club Peñarol tried to take him away from China. They have a rule here that you've got to be 28 before you can leave China, unless they think otherwise, of course. He's 25.
Could I just say that occasionally, you know, managers, they get criticised for going on TV, and perhaps they should spend a little bit more time at their football clubs, but I think it just spells one thing now, that I've made a signing from China.
Here's away. Dangerous play would have been given then. It may well have been given. That's something Italian referees are very hot on. But Southgate didn't flinch.
As long as you've got a telephone, Martin, you make a sign in any part of the world. Referee quite right there, dangerous play.
I think we can deduce from that, Trevor, that you're the manager of Birmingham City, who might occasionally, when asked to do a spot of work for us, we'll be pleased to have you next season. So, England lead by 1-0. Shearer. Anderton. Gascoigne trying to use his strength. And then turning to the referee, of course, they know each other well from the Serie A days. And Paul Gascoigne knew that when it was a no, it meant no.
Yeah, I think he was slightly annoyed because he seemed to be obstructed by Shu, who we thought was going to be the sweeper. That's the role he played against Lazio, but playing tonight in an orthodox back four.
And again, the crowd recognise the quality when their man's in possession. But England deal with it, and Gascoigne has got Barmby breaking to the right. Shearer's gone to the left and lost his immediate marker very easily. McManaman's in the middle. McManaman trying to get it back to Alan Shearer. The goalkeeper had to drop on it in the end, and any fumble there, Barmby was around.
That was the type of movement there from Alan Shearer, spinning off his defender into a wide area they've got no answer to. He almost gets lucky here.
Well, he's perhaps overdue a bit of good fortune in front of goal, playing for England. 11 appearances without scoring. I'm sure I don't need to remind you too often about that. Howe. That needs Flowers. And he didn't fail England. As Shu played the 1-2. He got the return pass here.
Yeah, watched very, very closely by Tony Adams. Gary Neville, close attention. Good anticipation from Flowers.
McManaman, Barmby. He was trying to link up with Shearer. Bit of enterprise here shown by Way. Lee Hong-jun. No flag. Howe took up a good position there. And because of that, Phil Neville's had to head it behind for a corner.
Yeah, there were two England defenders, Neville and Southgate, closely watching Howe, but he did take up a good position, got the wrong side of Neville, classic striker's position, and forced Neville into giving a corner away.
Ma will take it. It's not good delivery again. Quite comfortable for Jamie Redknapp to clear. Well, just a little bit of concerted possession from China. England perhaps with half a mind on half-time, which we are now very close to. Li Bing to Lee Hong-jun. There's a foul by Gary Neville. And in stoppage time at the end of the first half, a free kick to China that England have got to deal with here to keep their lead intact until the break.
Yeah, clearly a tackle from behind on Lee Hong-jun by Neville. Shouldn't be a problem, though, Martin. We've got enough big players back there to deal with this.
That's Adams, the biggest of them all. McManaman. Well, the whistle has gone and the players head off to their separate changing rooms at opposite corners on the far side. England in control here and leading by a goal from Nick Barmby at half-time in Beijing. It's China 0, England 1. The thoughts of Jerry Francis with Richard Keys after the break.
On Select 11 against England, Sky Sports 2, 8:30. That's Sunday. Let's rejoin Trevor Francis and Martin Tyler.
Thank you very much, Richard. As far as we can tell, no changes for England at half-time. Just a moment to bring you some latest news on the injury front. Rob Lee not considered tonight. He picked up a thigh strain at the weekend. But Steve Howie has been working very hard in training. No reaction today to a good session after his recent muscle problems. So he's staking his claim to be involved on this trip. So England leading by a Nicky Barmby goal to nil to start the second half, and hoping to confirm their general supremacy. Although there were just one or two more casual moments, shall we say, as the half draw to a close, which might have worried Terry Venables.
The way the game's poised, Martin, at 1-0 was not too dissimilar to the game last Saturday against Hungary at Wembley. I said then at the time I felt that England could go on and win possibly 3 or 4-0. We all know now that it was a 3-0 victory. There's no reason why England can't do the same tonight.
Phil Neville, Gascoigne, Anderton taking over. Here's Redknapp. China funneling back.
It's noticeable straight away that England trying to give China a problem, with Adams pushing wide, receiving possession, thus enabling Neville to push right on, virtually as a wing-back would do.
China have brought on their number 14, Li Ming. It's another change in midfield. Here he is. Anderton trying to whip it in early. Such a clever player in terms of serving others from wide positions, as well as scoring at a very prolific rate for England. 4 in his last 4 internationals for Darren Anderton. The downside, of course, was the time between the internationals with the virtual year out because of his extended hernia problem. And also on is the number 17, Pong Wei-gu. This kick by Fan. Barmby was fouled by Gao Zhongxun, one of 3 replacements now that have been made by the Chinese coach, Shi Wusheng, who's been in charge since 1994. Barmby. This is Pong. He was surprisingly left out of the starting 11. He was another that had been noted by Terry Venables as one to watch. Ma. Now driving ahead of him, but it goes wide to Gao Fong. But for all his qualities, Pong is one of the smaller players, and that cross was far too deep for him, coming in by the far post. Redknapp. Gascoigne. Anderton in the centre. Phil Neville is the first teenager to play for England since John Barnes back in 1983. McManaman, supported by Phil Neville. Just on that theme, he's the youngest since Jimmy Greaves took his international bow back in the late 50s. Found that the header dropped for Anderton. Well, he saw that was a chance to get it beyond Xu Hong, where Alan Shearer was waiting with some hope.
Yeah, he must have looked to 1 or 2 that he was actually trying to chip the goalkeeper. Oh, but you're right, Martin. He tried to hit it beyond Xu. Alan Shearer pulled off the back of him.
Gao Zhongxun. supply some much-needed craft in China's midfield, but still, with England just with a one-goal cushion, China will feel that they've got an opportunity to get some status from the final outcome here. Anderton. This is Shearer. Anderton again, and England have a corner off Lee Hong-jun. Little inquest between the two centre-backs, and Adams sends Southgate up first, and then walks on after him.
Yeah, you feel that if the delivery is right from Anderton, with our extra height, we might cause one or two problems in this corner.
Was certainly a factor there for China to deal with, but they did get the ball after it passed beyond the England captain. Southgate got back very quickly. Phil Neville. Gascoigne trying to stay onside. Barmby's certainly done that, timed his run well. And England raised one or two questioning arms at the referee as Nick Barmby went down, but the decision is a goal kick.
Once again, another excellent run from Barmby. Well, he doesn't make contact with the ball. I think that's a good shout for a penalty. I'm not quite sure where the linesman was positioned, but I'm sure the referee would have found it very difficult from where he was to have given it.
Adams.
I don't think there's anything deliberate. I mean, you don't do that in the penalty box, but it just missed time, wasn't it?
Yes, the feature of it was the timing of the run again. Barmby's mobility, playing in a role similar to that occupied by Sheringham, who's one of the players being rested tonight. And of course, Peter Beardsley is a candidate for that job as well. He could come on. He's amongst the 7 nominated on the bench.
Yeah, as you mentioned that, Martin, he's actually warming up now along with Stone and I think it's Ekiog there, so perhaps we're going to see the introduction of those players.
It's Barmby, put through by Gascoigne. England have a second goal. Beautifully executed. It's turning out to be quite a night for Nick Barmby, but Paul Gascoigne was certainly on Barmby's wavelength then.
Well, it was a great ball, but a wonderful run, and a lovely finish. Saw the keeper coming, just casually chipped it over him into the unguarded net. Possibly offside. No, I don't think he is. The man in the picture there raising his arm, he's played him onside.
And while Barmby was celebrating, Gascoigne was standing, both arms raised, taking his share quite properly of credit for England's second goal in Beijing tonight. And here's Barmby again. He's got Redknapp there. McManaman coming in, comes off the goalkeeper. Shearer, no. It was Wei Chun who knocked it away in the nick of time. Steve McManaman had the shot. Wei Chun reacted as the ball bounced off the goalkeeper and stopped Alan Shearer striking.
Good shot this from McManaman. I'd like to have possibly seen Shearer react slightly quicker. He's actually standing still, doesn't move when the keeper makes the save. If he'd been perhaps slightly more alert, he would have got to the rebound. As it was Wei, the Chinese defender, who got it clear.
There was a possibility for China then, and Adams was lucky that the ball was played within his reach. Red shirts either side of him. Anderton, McManaman, England could be in again here. Shearer, Gascoigne trying to round it all off, and the goalkeeper can let it drop over. Came quickly at Alan Shearer initially.
Martin, we spoke about the first half where Howe was a constant threat to the English defence, the only player really for China, and you could say the same likewise for England. It's been Nick Barnby really against the Chinese defence. He's had 4 attempts at goal, scored 2. I would like to see Alan Shearer get 1 or 2 shots on goal. I don't think he's had an attempt at goal yet.
Well, the one that was a bit fortunate in the first half, and the ball seemed to fly against him and fly at the goalkeeper.
Yeah, but I don't think he knew anything about that, did he?
Mark. Ball.
And also it's interesting that Barnby, predominantly right-footed, scored both goals with his left foot.
Well, Terry Venables knowing and quite freely admitting the opportunity that he was given to fringe players in his squad. Of course, Nick Barnby was very much to the fore in the first half of the season that's just finished back home.
I've often said that one of the great attributes that Nick Barnby's got for one so young is his movement. And really that's been the biggest problem I feel tonight for the Chinese. They've been a little bit naive. Any type of good movement, they found it very, very difficult to cope with.
She mentioned the shots and of course the goals, and of course he was the player in the penalty incident as well, from another clever dart into space in harmony with the way the ball was played from behind him. Fan trying to get it into China's midfield. And here's Howe emerging on the scene again and giving Adams a problem. The difficulty for China is to give him the sort of possession where he could really unhinge England tonight.
Well, great change of pace from Howe. Left Tony Adams trailing. Unfortunately, the shot didn't cause Tim Flowers a problem, but he's caused enough problems tonight.
Out, it could be England's ball. The linesman didn't see it that way, but England can press in and try and confine China to this particular corner of the pitch. Great care, of course, taken with the players' food over here, with Western stomachs and Eastern cooking, not always a happy mix. All has gone well. There have been a couple of casualties amongst the large media contingent, but the footballers are fine.
One, two.
Here's Gascoigne.
Hello, Mum.
Still Gascoigne. Shearer. Phil Neville well forward. England well represented in the centre for Phil Neville's cross. Good climb by Pan Ji-yi. Southgate, this very mature character, alongside Tony Adams at the back. He's certainly one who's enhanced his status in the England camp over the last few months, Gareth Southgate.
It's been a good return too for Tony Adams, Martin. We're all looking very, very closely at him because he's been out for a long while. If there is going to be any substitutions, I'm sure that Tony Adams will be one that's pulled off. Then he'll be used again on Sunday just to confirm his fitness. But I certainly think he's done enough tonight. Just got to look now to see if there's no reaction.
Just wonder whether Terry Venables might say on Sunday, let's have a look at a team pretty much near the one he wants to start with against Switzerland. It's a possibility. No real clues from within the camp. But whatever the team, you'll see the match on Sunday on Sky Sports. I think Phil Neville was wondering, he knew he'd probably get some football on this trip, whether it would be tonight or in Hong Kong. Now, of course, there is a big difference in that no caps are awarded for the game in Hong Kong. It's not a full Hong Kong international 11. It's enhanced, in fact, with players like Everton's Dave Watson, we understand, Mike Duxbury, once at Manchester United, an old England colleague of yours, Trevor, who now plays in Hong Kong. He will be lining up against the country of birth.
Have we got a chance of playing?
With your hat-trick for the press team yesterday, you've got every chance. You've been very quiet about that. Foul by Adams. Gao Zhongjun. Here's Pong. It's not a bad ball. Oh, the flag was up. The type of service that Gao Fong didn't really get in the first half. Just gone too quickly.
It was a rather late flag too, I may add, by the linesman, but he got it up. That's what matters.
Two 2-0 to England, both goals from Nick Barmby. Had 15 minutes in the second half. McManaman. Redknapp. Gascoigne. And keeping it well, and now looking to add some progress to the patience. No gifts there for Shearer though. Good handling by Oh Tuliang. England getting it back, I must say, at times rather easily.
Yes, I would think all those players just in front of us here are warming up. We'll be desperate to get on.
It's a good ball from Redknapp for Gary Neville.
It's the sort of game where you want to go on and show what you can do.
Howe. Taken on by Pong. Howe again. The crowd in front of us all standing up with the Howe in possession. He doesn't disappoint them in that he keeps their things going. Li Ming having a little dart forward himself. The cross took a deflection despite the efforts from Flowers. The corner is given. Li Ming on. Li Bing was on in the first half. He's one of the players who's been replaced.
Well, Tim Flowers didn't feel this was a corner. We'll see for ourselves. Now it's on the line. The linesman is some 60 yards away, gave it.
It's a determined play at the near post by Shearer. Shu. They're not happy again, the locals. Well, England are going to make their first change, and it's going to be in goal. Another opportunity, a second cap for Ian Walker, soon after the first last Saturday. And of course, he also was a replacement. The changes in goal, leaving Gary Neville, the only England player who's taken part in all 8 internationals this season. Really has established himself. So off will come number 1, Tim Flowers. Ian Walker smiling now. I asked him on the... We'll just come back to Walker in a minute, because this is Gascoigne. England could be in for another one. Oh, the linesman has got his flag up.
Oh, that's a ridiculous decision.
And it's not going to be party to it either. Paul Gascoigne's goal is going to stand. Referee Collina waved away the flag.
Well, what a good decision. He actually gives Nick Barmby offside, but he's not interfering with the play.
Brilliantly taken by Gascoigne. Anderton got the Chinese defenders on the wrong foot, and Gascoigne with all the confidence that England have shown really from the start here.
He starts it with a clever little run, and then just flicks it with the outside of his foot, knew exactly where he wanted to put it, across the keeper to the far side. Nick Barmby follows it in. He's not offside. Thankfully the referee saw it the same way.
So Walker now comes on with England 3-0 up, and Gascoigne a scorer for the first time under Terry Venables, at least as far as an international is concerned. His last England goal was back in September 1993. So 2 for Barmby, who fortunately for England and for Gascoigne wasn't near enough to it to get another touch, which he might well have taken. It would have given him his hat-trick, but possibly then the linesman would have had a very strong case for not allowing it. Shoot. Just a bit of short on numbers in the centre.
Yeah, they were. Adams got slightly drawn to the ball, and young Gary Neville was left 2-on-1 at the back post, but he got himself in between the 2 players. And the important thing was he got the header away.
Well, the sifting and the sorting, the majority of it has been done by Terry Venables. Of course, he's got to make difficult decisions to really hurt 5 players from this particular party. But it is all about preparing and peaking at the right time. And 3-0 on Saturday, 3-0 here. You say what you like about the quality of the opposition, but England have looked a good unit. They have taken their chances, something that they weren't doing in the internationals earlier in the season, with the exception of the game against Switzerland. But now, I suppose, in talking about perspective, it's a case of not getting too carried away. Maybe even England on the pitch. No problem with their concentration. That was Pong with the shot.
Yeah, it was Redknapp. He lost possession of the ball. Strikes it well enough, but doesn't give Walker his first save. I think he only had 1 save on Saturday against Hungary.
Yeah, I was just going to tell a story about that, Trevor, when he came on, that he didn't smile, if you remember, when he caught the ball. And I asked him afterwards, that's his trademark at Tottenham when he gets the ball. He's always seems so happy-go-lucky. I said, why didn't you smile? He said, well, for the first time I had Stuart Pearce yelling at me, saying, catch it, in that Sergeant Major way of his. And it was a bit of a shock. Welcome to the international arena.
Well, Walker's job is to keep them out. At the other end, it's Alan Shearer's job to score, and we've already got 3 tonight. Alan hasn't featured yet. I really do feel that Alan is going to lead the attack for us against Switzerland, and hopefully throughout the competition. And I think it would do his confidence a great boost if he could get a goal.
He is ahead of schedule on his comeback, as he told us after the game on Saturday, when he didn't expect to be involved against Hungary. He had 15 minutes. He might get the full 90 minutes here. He's stayed with the game to the 3-quarter mark. McManaman. Gary Neville. More chances to come for England, you feel. Gascoigne already amongst the scorers. Anderton trying to get there to feed off the header.
Plenty of noise from the home supporters there. What they chanting, Martin?
It's not in my phrase book, Trevor.
I have to say, I've been very impressed with the way you've pronounced some of the names tonight. You've obviously ordered quite a few Chinese takeaways over the years.
Well, I'm concentrating on the names and not the numbers, and it's not always that way in the restaurants, of course. McManaman. This is Pong. Ming. And China have a corner. Oh, well, as the ball came back in then, the
not only did he sell How a dummy, he also sold you a dummy there, Gary Neville.
Yeah, easily.
But it all started from a poor throw-out from Walker, gave possession away.
Well, the referee might be one person questioned by the Chinese media here. The way he overruled his linesman, as we believe, with bags of justification. He's a referee of great stature in the international arena as well as Serie A. He's off to officiate in the Olympics in Atlanta. Now, well read by Gascoigne again. Shearer. Phil Neville. McManaman's made a run ahead of him. Xu Hong drawn out of the centre by that run. McManaman hopes for a free kick.
In fact, it's a throw-in. You're taking the ball out of play as you're trying to dribble past the big defender's shoe.
More England changes shortly. Ma. Li Ming. His ankle's clipped there by Southgate. Just trying to make sure everything is organised in there. To defend this China free kick. England leading 3-0. And the shot from Gao Zhongchun. Alan Shearer's coming off. Robbie Fowler will replace him, wearing number 18. And Nick Barmby is going to depart again to give Peter Beardsley some international action. He hasn't had much over the last year since the Umbro Cup. A brief appearance as a substitute against Portugal in December.
Well, I would think Nick Barmby's got mixed feelings about that. Delighted to have got 2 goals, but slightly disappointed. He's not been given a chance to get his hat-trick.
But would you say tonight he has booked his place in Terry Venables' 22?
I think he's created a problem because looking through the squad, I said at the start that of the ones that could possibly be left out, I mentioned Jimmy Redknapp and Barmby, because I think it's either Barmby or Peter Beardsley. And I'd have given the nod to Beardsley. But with those 2 goals tonight, he's obviously presented a slight problem now to Terry Venables. Although I'm sure Terry's not stupid, he'll take into consideration the poor opposition.
There was a bit of a debriefing there with Alan Shearer, who will now go into Euro 96 without a goal in a full international since September 1994. If he plays and scores against the Hong Kong 11, won't go into the records in that respect. Chance for England to score here. And Peter Beardsley at knee high.
Yeah, he's just arrived slightly unbalanced. But once again, it's typical of the evening that the majority of the chances that have fallen to England have come from the players who play slightly behind the front man. Barmby had all of 4 chances, he converted 2. And Beardsley, within 2 minutes of being on the field, has already had a chance.
I think it says so much about the value of that position and the importance of the quality of the player in it at the top level. Beardsley. Gary Neville. Just over 15 minutes left. Howe. letting them down for once. Gao. Wait. Not the right way. Well, there'll be memories for all of us from this trip to China, but it might have a special place in the heart of Ugo Ehiogu, who's also getting ready for England, and what will be his first cap.
Fully deserved too. He's had an outstanding season for Brian Little's Aston Villa, and my guess is he'll come on for Tony Adams.
This is Ma winding himself up for the shot, but Ian Walker had his angles worked out. Ugo Ehiogu, who's captained the under-21s in the past.
Well, here's the shot. Walker covers it very, very closely. Knows exactly where he is between the sticks. Lets it go past the post.
Well, Trevor Francis, who told us that England would get 3 goals at half-time, has also told us who'll be coming off. Tony Adams departs. And I think it's Peter Beardsley who's putting on the captain's armband. And Ugo Ehiogu is involved in a senior international for the very first time. It's up around 47 different players now that Terry Venables has used in a couple of months, over 2 years since he took over from Graham Taylor.
Martin, you're a great statistician. I don't expect you to answer this question, but the current England back four surely has to be the youngest we've ever fielded at international level.
Here's one of them, 19-year-old Phil Neville. McManaman, Beardsley taking over. They rather got in each other's way in the end. Well, you've got Gary Neville at 21, Gareth Southgate is 25, Ugo Ehiogu 23, and as I say, Phil Neville 19.
I suppose some would say that you must include the keeper in your defensive unit, so let's include Ian Walker.
Ian Walker checks in at 24, but of course very short of experience as well. That's another factor. You look at the caps. Gary Neville, very much the senior man, and it's his 10th international. But it's circumstances that suit the gaining of experience tonight.
Yes, it's the type of match that anyone would like to play in. The type of matches you don't want to be making your debut in is Brazil away or Argentina away, because that could be their first and last cap.
John trying to get forward. Ehiogu is there. Londoner, of course, of Nigerian ancestry. Wasn't where it was aimed for. Good looming, but Howe made it into something. Here he goes again. At the back post, but Gary Neville happy to concede the corner. Steve McManaman is coming off for Steve Stone. China wanting to take the corner as soon as they get the nod from the referee. He waits for McManaman to clear the perimeter. Ball out of play comprehensively. Another chance to remind you about our coverage on Sunday. We start at 8:30 a.m. when England play the Hong Kong Golden Select 11, the last public performance before Euro 96. Minutes left of this performance here in Beijing. And great acts of diplomacy to get the fixture into place. Terry Venables will hope that no mishaps occur in the time that remains, given all the foreboding which continued even till yesterday with that unfortunate miscalculation when the players visited the Great Wall and were asked to on a route march. Was just a human error, lack of a real guide in the right place at the right time. It was the last thing that England really needed, with all the comments ringing in their ears about whether they should be here in the first place. Well, they've seen the sights and they're very close to seeing off China in terms of the football contest.
Certainly climbed the mountain yesterday, Martin, but it's not been necessary today. It's been rather straightforward from the first minute.
Beardsley. Here's Stone. He wasn't considered for the match against Hungary because of a slight hamstring strain, but you do find at this stage with a squad to be named, injuries tend to clear up pretty quickly. And let's hope that Tony Adams came off in fine fettle. It certainly didn't look as though he had any great problem. There was a real worry about him a week or so ago. But it's not just his play that England want in Euro 96, it's his strength of character as well. Redknapp. Just on the subject of the Great Wall expedition yesterday, there was a lovely touch. A veteran photographer out here, Monty Fresco, who's a senior citizen now, shall we say, Gary Neville, offered to help him carry his bags, his photography kit, in some of the difficult parts of the terrain. It was typical of the behaviour of both Nevilles. Splendid ambassadors for Manchester United, for their own parents, and now for England. Of course, there's a twin sister of Philip as well, who's a netball international at under 21 level. Truly amazing family. And certainly, I think Bobby and Jack Charlton played 29 times together for England. Time is on the side of Gary and Philip Neville to run that record close. This is Peter Beardsley, followed by Xu Hong. Trevor, how much is it a case of England playing well, and how much is it a case of China not really being strong enough on the international stage?
Well, they're not strong enough. That was clear from the first minute. They were a very weak nation. I think we felt that anyway. But I said before the game on Saturday against Hungary that we should use it as a morale booster. Score a few goals, build up confidence. All three games, Hungary, China and Hong Kong, I would expect us to win, and to win quite comfortably. And I think that's what will happen. 3-0 on Saturday. It's 3-0 at the moment, can possibly be more. And I would expect the same on Sunday, Martin.
Beardsley. Of course, even when he's not been playing, he's also been a splendid member of the squad. Doesn't take anything for granted because of his seniority. And they are a very tightly grouped bunch now. The bonding exercise, to use Terry Venables' own word, of this trip is working well. Stone kind of steered across towards Robbie Fowler.
Not a good ball that from Stone. We had three players in the box. Fowler was joined by the two midfield boys, Anderton and Gascoigne. It was rather a flat cross.
Stone. Beardsley trying to get there. Fan taking a risk. Trevor, you've got to consider the man of the match. And we'll just give you a couple of minutes to put your thoughts together on that. Now Fong's pass. Led wide by Peng. Corner for China. 4 minutes or so to go. And they just need to maintain their concentration here. To work 2-on-1 at the short corner. And Walker makes light of the catch. China have got a number of their taller players in and around England's goalkeeper here.
Yeah, I thought for 1 second he had gone beyond him, but he judged it quite well and takes it under no real pressure. No challenge coming in from the Chinese forwards.
Beardsley. Another goal now would really round it off nicely for England. And Peter Beardsley and Robbie Fowler looking to conjure up something here. Fowler! A fraction away.
Well, it was great link-up play with Beardsley and Fowler involved. And you knew that once Robbie had it on the edge of the box, he was going to let fly with his left foot. I expected that to see the ball nested in the back of the net. He knew he wanted to put it across the keeper into the far side. Just slightly put it wide.
I suppose one combination that the fans might like to see would be Shearer and Fowler playing together, given their prolific seasons for their respective clubs. But the way England have developed under Terry Venables, they're rather rivals for the same position. And along with Les Ferdinand, of course. Ekield's head. Gao Fong. Now Li Ming with the cross. They're stretching England, but stretching themselves.
Well, they're even booing Howe now. He's been their best player. Well, I've got to give the man of the match, and tonight, you know, you could give it to any one of the England players. I don't think it would meet with too much disapproval, because they've all played their part. It's been a nice, comfortable game for them. But I'm going to give it to Nick Barmby, because whilst he was on the field, he was always a threat. I mentioned he had 4 attempts at goal. That's essential for a striker. And of those 4, he converted 2 to score the opening 2 goals. So, man of the match, Nick Barmby.
And having to do a bit of defending here. They've rarely been hustled out of their stride. Just a little spell as the first half came to a close. Talk about concentration. When you've been through a couple of time zones, plays tricks sometimes with the mind and just focusing for long periods.
Well, there was the first.
So easy.
Sorry, Martin. There was the first half when there was a possible penalty appeal. Neville on Howe, but referee gave it outside the box. And from the free kick, didn't really trouble Tim Flowers. That's the nearest they've come to scoring, haven't they? They haven't been a threat at all.
And England have struck 3 times. It's good pressure by Beardsley. Fowler. Now Stowe. Anderton's got into the centre. Anderton!
Well, that's the Steve Stone that we've come to admire over the last few years. Great individual play. Good 1-2 with Fowler. Smashing cross. Anderton arrives from deep, timed his run to perfection. It can't quite get into the back of the net.
Well, there have been criticisms as the season has worn on of England, their policies, the times they play, and critics are entitled to do that, but I think from the supporters' point of view, it really is a great time to back the players for Euro 96. It's going to be a fantastic test for England, but let's hope we're seeing them come good at the right time, especially in the goal-getting department.
Unfortunately, Martin, although Bombay has scored 2, I don't think he's going to feature, is he, in the first match? And as I said before, the player we need to be scoring goals is Alan Shearer, and that's a big worry still, the fact that he hasn't scored for so long.
Stone, of course, has been scoring this season, one of the finds of the season internationally, if not the find, and he's penalised in the end for handball. Bang's pass, and Ethiog always looks to have something extra in his movement. Got back easily. Into stoppage time. And England have won an historic match here in Beijing, and they've won it with something to spare on their first visit to China. Goals from Nick Barmby either side of half-time. The second delightfully set up for him by Paul Gascoigne, who went on to claim the third with an extravagant flick. Although the linesman was flagging for offside, the Italian